if everything's looking good. Yeah, I think so. Come on, music.
So much fun. Okay, so that was Bacchina Differenti, and gosh, so we just had like a 2-hour rehearsal before I got here tonight because I've never met any of these, either one of these amazing musicians, and we went through a million things, but we didn't really stretch out over anything. So now we're stretching out over stuff.
Cool, very cool. So, guys, hello, and this is Pulitzer,
Politzer.
Politzer, okay. Yep. I don't know her well enough to know how to pronounce her name well. So, anyway, I'm just getting my stuff together here. Hi, Tita Farrar, and Alexia, and Magic Smith. Hi. Okay, well, hi there, everybody. Yeah, so Kerry is from Oregon. Well, are you from Oregon?
No, I'm a native of Washington, D.C., but I lived on the East Coast for a very long time and then moved to Winnipeg for a couple years, and then I've been in Portland since 2011.
Okay. Yeah. So 2011. That's a while.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, yeah. How do you like it?
Um, it's I like certain things about it. I do miss the East Coast a certain amount because I spent many years in New York City, and I kind of feel like that's where my heart might be.
Yeah, yeah. But 2011, that's a long time.
Well, we have some jobs here, and you got to go where the jobs are. So, my husband, George Colligan, is a full-time jazz professor at Portland State,
Uh,
and I'm adjunct there and also at Clackamas Community College. So, the teaching jobs, it's nice to have some stability.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, if you're going to live somewhere, Portland is not bad.
Oh no, there's a lot of good things about it. It's just, you know, it's quite different than where I grew up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How old were you when you left DC?
Well, I guess I would maybe more accurately like Maryland area. And then
Yeah.
I went to North Carolina School of the Arts when I was 14 to study classical piano.
Oh,
And then I ended up at England Conservatory in Boston where I discovered jazz and Brazilian music. And I was
oh,
there for like 7 years. And then I moved to New York for a pretty good chunk of my young adult life and got married and then moved to Winnipeg because there was a job that my husband had up there at the University of Manitoba and it was just too cold up there. So I was like, please, it's 40 below. I can't go outside. Like, please let me out. So England is much milder with the weather.
yeah. I know. I was just visiting my friend in Michigan, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's really beautiful. I love visiting. I remember because I'm from Boston, so I
Oh,
remember
okay.
the snow, and and it's great. It's beautiful, and the seasons. I mean, it's great. But I don't think I could live in it anymore. I just, I'd like to visit it. It's beautiful, but everyday living is like it, really takes another kind of strength.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Boston, there was an April Fool's blizzard. It was like the 27th snowstorm of the season, and everybody was taking bets on when this giant snow mountain would finally melt. And I literally can't remember how long it took. It was like humongous.
One thing I remember, I mean, of course, I grew up in it, so I remember that, stuff from my childhood. But when I was in college, so I was, it was the 70s, was pretty safe. And it was Boston, which is kind of a neighborhood, kind of a town. I just remember in the middle of the night, probably 3 in the morning or something, I was just walking through the snow town, the towns, just walking. I took a long walk and, I was probably in Brighton or somewhere like that. And just walking and it was beautiful and quiet and the snow. And it's kind of a really good memory for me, but, you know, I may not do that, at this time. I don't know, whatever. You do things at a certain time for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of good memories of Boston because there were so many great musicians there, and the public transportation was so great. You could just take the
Yeah.
bus or the T, and that was during the time when like George Garzone would play at the Willow with the
Yeah.
Fringe every week, and I would go there, and there was Cafe Erasmus, and then all of these musicians who I ended up really admiring a lot were at Berkeley, and just there was a lot of really wonderful music happening.
Yeah. Boston's a really cool town. Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of stuff and it's feels kind of organic and yeah, when I was there too, like I said, and I went to Berkeley in the 70s. And the music was a real mishmash of stuff happening, everything from Weather Report to John Mayall, I mean, it was really a mixture of stuff. So that's cool. But it's cool that you got into Brazilian there. See, I didn't even really get into Brazil until later, much, much later here. Just didn't really come into my reality for whatever reason.
Mhm. Well, when we were at NEC, the great singer Luciana Souza was actually a graduate student there. And so she taught a Brazilian ensemble, and it was my very first exposure to the music. And then her godfather is Hermeto Pascoal. So he came and did a week-long residency, and it was life-changing.
Yeah. I was at a week-long camp in South America with Hermeto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful experience. Yeah. What changed your life about him?
Well, I remember, so he was here with Jovino Santos Neto, he was doing a lot of work.
Yeah, they're
And I
very
just
close.
remember
Yeah.
when they left, I felt like there was a hole in my heart. I cried. It was just this wonderful week of just music, listening to music. Ermita would sit there just writing music all day long. Um, just and then he performed but then they would just have this really wonderful time with the community there. There was like a big party at Tekka Penderici's house because she was out there and there was like all kinds of delicious food and a jam session and when they left I just felt like my heart had been ripped out because it was just such a beautiful week of just positivity and beauty.
Yeah, yeah. And it affected you after that too?
Well, I guess just being around that great music
Yeah,
that I hadn't really been exposed to before. I mean, we had recordings in the ensembles, and
yeah,
we did play one of his pieces, but just being around somebody that was just so endlessly inspired all the time and so positive and so encouraging and just, it seems like his main goal is just for everybody to be making really great music.
yeah, yeah, it does. At this camp, so I was teaching there. I had a group that was four singers. That's what I brought there, and so yeah, we were all teaching. After class, I went over to his class, and it was like electric. He was writing on a board, like writing the music, right? And whatever instrument you played, you were supposed to learn it and play it. And then this old woman was standing by this front of the stage, and she was like this. She was really, like so getting affected. And her daughter came over, who was, a lot younger, and came over and said, Mom, come sit down. And I was like, no, don't make her sit down. She's having this huge experience, I mean, where else is your mom going to get this?
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was very community. We ate, eating together and just watching him perform and, you know, play, on this, whatever he was playing, he'd pick up a piece of paper, he'd pick up anything and play.
Yeah, just such a wonderful, positive attitude towards music, and he actually gave me like a couple of autographs, and I think one of them says something like, don't be afraid of yourself, don't be afraid of making music, and it was just very, as a college student, I still have, probably a lot of anxiety about just performance and about a lot of other stuff, but it was almost like he was just telling us, just be fearless and just make music.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
left an
Great
impression.
message. Yeah. Great message. So so, um, I'm not sure of your whole commitment to Brazilian music are you, are you pretty deep into it?
Well, one thing that we do up here, and if you ever come visit, you can, uh, you can, I'll bring you there. We have like a monthly tribute to a different Brazilian composer, and this month we're doing Chico Buarque. We've done like Edu Lobo. For Women's History Month, we're gonna do Joyce. We're gonna do Javan. We're gonna do Ivan Lins. Like we have so many good things coming up every month. So every month I'll just like listen to a million recordings and try to take arrangements off of stuff. And then we play these two sets at this local club called the 1905, which is really our main jazz club here. So that is something I really love doing, and it helps just keep my mind in a positive place.
Yeah. So I guess the answer is yes, you're committed to Brazilian music.
I love music.
Yes, Tita Ivan is fantastic. And also, who I met at the Brazil camp was Ginga.
Well, we just played a piece of his, the Iara, I think it is. There's a wonderful flute player who came and visited, and I think that's the first piece that I had played by him. And we played a really just harmonically. It was so interesting.
You know, I'm going to send you a song that he was composing while we were there, and he taught it to us all, and we all performed it. And then I went home and I wrote lyrics to it with his
Oh, wow.
blessings. So he's okayed my English lyrics. And it was funny because I really wrote them with a Brazilian mind. You know how Brazilian lyrics talk about the whole scope of love in one song? you know, the heights, the depths, right? So I actually wrote like that. And it's a beautiful song.
Oh,
You haven't
wow.
heard it yet, probably because he recorded it, but it's due out in August, I think, on a recording. But I'll have to send that to you. I'll just prepare that here so I can remember to do that. I mean, yeah, I don't even know if he had a name for it yet, other than Shoro. But yeah, I'm gonna go get it right now. Let's see, get all my stuff together, scores. Cathy's originals, okay. I called it an original. It's not, it's his original. Choro. It's gorgeous.
Oh, I love to hear it. You know, it's interesting. I was just having a discussion with the student about how sometimes you can tell whether a guitarist or a pianist wrote a song, and for him, it really sounds just like with Tonino, right? You can really tell that it was written on the guitar. Like all of these kind of these chords, the way they move and the way they're structured, you're like, oh, guitar player wrote this.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, and hearing an artist like that, uh, there's something really unique about it, right? I mean, so many Brazilians are like that, just absolutely personal, and it's personal. It's not just the piece, it's them, and the piece, It's really quite beautiful. I mean, mostly at camp, I just sat in his class. Yeah, because for hours, it was more like a hang, and I just sat there for every day, Um, Christine did that too. I mean, we occasionally went to something else, but we were there. It was wonderful. Yeah, it's really great.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I interviewed Jovino too, and he's really cool.
He's
He's
like
an
probably
amazing guy.
the best teacher of Brazilian music that I think I've taken any lessons from. He has so much knowledge, and it's like he could just call any fact to his brain within like 2 seconds. Everything is just all there. Like I actually took a private lesson with him, and I've seen him perform here. I don't get up to Seattle very often, but he did come down here to do a PDX jazz thing with his ensemble, but he's
Yeah.
just so knowledgeable, and he has really wonderful classes online.
So besides Brazilian, what style of music would you say that you've, like mostly experienced or bring along to now?
Well, one person that was really influential from Boston area was Charlie Banacos. I studied
Oh
with
yeah.
him for many years, and he really introduced me to improvisation and composition, and how to listen to it and how to absorb it, because I was coming from classical, and there was just a lot of things I didn't understand, rhythmically, harmonically, sonically. I just didn't get it. So he really helped me a lot, and influenced me and helped me learn how to hear what it was that I wanted to do. He
Yeah.
would just give us like a ton of exercises and chords, and just he had a way of kind of jogging your creativity.
Yeah.
So that was really, modern jazz. I don't even know like how to explain or describe what that is, but just the process of composing something that's harmonically interesting to you, and something that sounds unique. There's another thing. When I was at NEC, I wasn't in this department, but there was probably, you've heard of the third stream philosophy, where you
Sure.
listen and absorb to different genres of music, and then they all kind of coalesce into your personal expression. So I kind of liked that idea. Also, they had classical, jazz, and world music, and we got to listen to music from Indonesia, from South India, from Turkey. You can just over your lifetime just absorb all of this almost subconsciously, and then see what comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought third stream though related to avant-garde or creative music.
I mean, creative improvisation, but from what I understand, at least when I was there, that originally it was, yeah, Gunther Schuller, and
Yeah.
some of that got really out there. But I had been under the impression that they meant you take these two streams and absorb them, and then a third one comes out.
Oh, I see.
But
Oh,
don't quote me on that. That
yeah.
was my impression. But
Well, maybe that was. I mean, who knows what they were really, specifically talking about. I mean, Gunther Schuller certainly had classical and jazz, but I mean, modern jazz, like you were saying before. That's the term I use, modern. I mean, there's people who play bebop, not that it doesn't have modern elements, but it's just a more bebop kind of overall quality and, straight ahead stuff. And
yeah,
yeah, so, but I mean, especially, over the last 20 years or something, I've heard a lot of mixed, blends of genres, you know, and yeah, it's because of who we've been and what we've listened to, and yeah,
and
I
that's
mean, yeah,
inspiring. Like it means like you're the only person that can make your music. I
yeah,
tell students about this all the time because I think we all have like a certain amount of performance anxiety or just like wanting to do a good job or be seen as playing well. But in the end, it's really like nobody else can play something exactly the way, nobody's going to make the same exact choices that you were going to make. And that's really meaningful. So I feel like kind of focusing on what we mean to say instead of how well we mean to say it, it helps me a lot, and I think it helps my students too.
yeah, that's well put, actually, and that to me, that's the most challenging thing there is, because how do you choose what to say? How do you tap into that? You know, I mean, there's so many layers, right? So many layers to that, and some of them are subconscious, some of them are conscious, and at least if you're looking for lessons, you can be aware and be open. I just had a vocal lesson right before this, and I'm 71. I've been singing since I was born. Professional singing with my dad started at 12, and just always worked and write and blah 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 blah. I've been singing for all my life, but I'm finding new information that and what really blows my mind, not that it's just new information, but how my body and mind view the old information and the new information. That's really what blows my mind. It's like it's 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 not exactly scary, it's more commitment to me than bravery, you know, more commitment and focus, which in this day and age is,
That's a
hard.
challenge. I mean,
Yeah,
focus is probably one of the most difficult things these days with the social media and the
yeah,
news and, smartphones and everything. It's
yeah,
just, I think it's probably, in that aspect, is one of the most challenging times I can remember having actually lived in.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's really, hello, this is your life, you just gotta be awake and move forward, right? Yeah, it's really an interesting life. I don't even want to say time. It's just an interesting life. I'm sure like people all, in all of history had their own things were happening that were particular to that time. But we're human. We're made up the same way, you know, 300 years ago. If I was here, I'd probably be the same person. I just
Hmm.
different things to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a student recently that was, let's see. Well, I had to tell her, um, introduce to her the idea of having music and having a commitment uh, to practicing every day and what being a singer actually meant, you know, like she had worked with bands, but she said, well, I can just play with tracks. And I was like, well, no, that's not, even if you're doing it for fun, that's, it's like barely on the scale, you know. And it was, I actually told her, I said, I don't know that I'm the teacher for you. You may want a teacher who's just going to give you the songs, teach you licks, and you'll be happy with that, because that's not what I do. So, yeah, I haven't had a student like that show up for a long time. But she didn't come through my website. She came as a referral. So, and he had heard her singing jazz. So, he said, oh, go to Cathy,
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, yeah, you've been teaching a long time, right?
I guess since basically 2011. Well, no, 2009, I taught, when we were in Manitoba, I taught like a group jazz piano class at the University of Manitoba. And then I've been teaching at PSU, I guess, since 2013. So I
Yeah.
guess that's a pretty long time.
Do you
It's
teach
all
classes or privates?
private lessons. Now I do private lessons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a friend here, Taylor Hatch. He says, knowing you're teaching at Portland State, what's been the most effective tactics that have been supplemental to your teaching philosophy?
Well, I guess there's two things that I think are really important, and one of them I got from Charlie Banacos when I was studying at his studio in Beverly. So I personally think that in order to teach somebody, you have to be somewhat encouraging, because if you really discourage the student and make them feel like they can't do it, they're not going to like music and they're not going to want to come back. I had a few teachers like that, people that would be like, oh, this is going to be really hard for you, and why are you doing that? And when I was at NEC, I'm not going to say who did it, but somebody kicked me off the piano bench during jazz ensemble because I didn't know how to play in odd meters. So I don't believe in that at all. I don't believe in buttering somebody up if they're not doing the work, but I do really feel like the reason somebody's there is because they want to make music, and so it's my job to help them develop the tools so that they can more accurately express themselves. So that's one of the first things, is that I feel like an encouraging attitude is really important.
Yeah, yeah. Singers come in a lot and tell me stories that their teachers just said the shittiest things to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But it's like there's enough shit out there. Like, we should be making music is like a beautiful thing, and it should be encouraged as much as possible. It's a productive community building endeavor that just has just about everything good about life in it.
yeah.
So why would I want to discourage somebody from creating something that's beautiful?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Kerry. That is so true. Can we listen to another thing?
Oh, of course.
Gosh, I feel like continuing to listen to the Sam first. It's so pretty. And that was real recent. But would you like me to listen to anything else here?
The Montevilla Jazz Festival was kind of cool. I think that's the second link on the page over there.
Okay. And where's Montevilla?
That's a neighborhood in Portland. So we have like a few jazz festivals here. There's like the main one, and then there's that Montevilla Jazz is it's local, but they sometimes have some out of town artists coming in, and I've played that a couple times, and it's really great because they prioritize original music. So you can, I think they prefer that you do original music.
Cool.
So that's always really nice.
I love that. That's good. Yeah. That's a whole interesting conversation as well. We're going to find you in any moment.
Lots of sponsors, I guess.
Yeah.
recording soon.
Wow. Cool.
1905.
Incredible. Wow.
That was a really
That was,
early thing that I wrote. I actually wrote that in college, I think.
that was great.
Thanks. It was called
Uh,
Hayride.
what is it called?
Hayride, because when I was a kid, we used to go on hay rides in the countryside of Maryland.
That's cool. You are a great player.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really great song. Wow, what a great vehicle to have. Yeah, for soloing. Sorry, I'm just moving around some stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm curious what your attitude is about being a woman musician. I mean, I'm sure everybody asks you that because, it's an obvious question. Um, I'm guessing that you don't think about it that much unless it's thrown in your face somehow, but you're just being a musician and you're just going ahead and doing the musician thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, well, I don't know, but definitely it's still, I think, some people feel like there's people that look like musicians and other people that don't. And so, like, I recently went into a music store and I feel like maybe they thought I was just like a soccer mom or something. Sometimes I feel like I get a little bit of that. I mean, yeah, being a parent is very important to me and it's pretty, integral to my life and my children really do come first. But, music is also really, really, really important to just my happiness and yeah, I feel like, that it's less of a thing than it was, but I think maybe there's just like stereotypes about like it's almost like so when I'm thinking about music, I'm thinking of what it sounds like, and I'm not so much focused on like appearances. But obviously, we're in a business, and appearances are important, and people are looking at whoever's on stage. And sometimes I think that's kind of a drag because I just want to think about, you know, what's coming into people's ears rather than what's coming into their eyes.
Yeah. Have you have you had experiences? Have you had, sorry, let me take a breath. Have you had experiences that have um, been needed handling. Let's put it that way. About something along the female, just because you're a female, or
Well, I guess when I was first, I mean, I think things have changed a lot. I mean, there's like so many phenomenal female musicians out there, but I think there is kind of a tendency when I was, I think, putting out my first album, I was briefly hooked up with what was going to be a label, and I remember they brought me to this photographer who just took the most ridiculous photos of me, like, just a ton of like really 80s style makeup and the hair and everything, and it's just not me at all, and I didn't feel comfortable with those photos at all. So I ended up breaking ties because I just felt embarrassed, like this is not me, I'm not
yeah,
like a glamorous kind of a person, and I just kind of want to make the music.
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, I remember I was being hired to write for a magazine, a women's magazine, and they wanted me to find stories on women, famous women who had had difficulty, because they were women. And it just really did not appeal to me, so I quit because I just feel like we all have something, something to deal with, and we've all had difficulties and traumas, and you know, none of our families are 300% perfect, and
Oh,
just so on and on and on. And it's just like, who are you, and how are you going to deal? How do you deal with things? How do you have perspectives, an overall perspective on how you deal with things, and to me, that's more valuable. It's not just like picking one thing out.
well, I guess it's like the third stream thing. There's a lot of streams that go into you to create who you are.
Yeah,
So it's your job as an artist to try to make some kind of cohesive statement that came out of everything that formed you.
yeah, yeah. Are your kids into music playing?
I think they're musical, but they're not that interested. My younger one is kind of taking some drum lessons, but I don't know what they're going to end up doing. I have two boys, and they're very strong-willed, and you can't make them do anything they don't want to do. So no forceful weekly piano lessons are happening here.
Do you guys play music? Do you hear, do they hear music?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
in the car, like in my car, I'm constantly playing like Brazilian music all the time, and and the little one can remember melodies very well, so he'll sing along with Sergio Mendes or different things. And then obviously my husband is a really great musician, and so he always has music around all the time, and he's always having people over that he's teaching, and so there is a lot of music here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What does your husband play?
He's a pianist. His name is George Colligan, but he also plays drums and he plays trumpet and he can play bass. He can play all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow, cool. Here's another Taylor question. What sort of things, you cool?
What's that?
Are you cool?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lawnmower outside. If you want me to go,
Oh,
I will.
I hear a little bit, but it's not a big
Okay.
deal. Taylor says, what sort of things do you find most essential for young aspiring artists to know about finding their own artistic voices?
Well, I would say one thing is listen to music that you like. You
Yeah,
might be in lessons with somebody that is, someone who's teaching you a certain technique or something that you have to do, but you always need to be enjoying music, otherwise you're not going to want to continue. So if there's something that you like and you gravitate towards, try to get more into that rather than just doing what you're assigned.
yeah. Do you think that's what drives you?
Um, yeah, because okay, so I started off as a classical pianist, kind of like a miserable classical pianist who ended up getting really severe tendonitis for
Oh,
5 years, and I had
wow.
to stop playing. And during that time, I kind of heard jazz for the first time, and I was listening to it. I'm like, wow, this is really hip. I really like this. And when I was able to start playing again, I kind of went off the rails, and I'm like, I think I'm done with this classical thing. I want to start listening to jazz and getting into it and finding out how it's structured and what makes it sound so great. So it was really in my ears, and I'm like, this is the sound that I want to have in my ears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. Do you favor something in your music? Like, is there is there like a more pure form of expression, or do you just kind of open for varied things?
Um, well, I'm always inspired by Brazilian music. I guess whatever I'm listening to a lot at the moment will kind of inform what I'm doing. Now it's just a question of the challenge of getting time to myself in order to be able to sit down and write something. So it might be just like the 20 minutes before I have to start teaching a lesson at Clackamas Community College, because I have a room all to myself with two pianos and nobody else is in there. And I think that's the most important thing, is just to be alone, because
Yeah,
if you have distractions, it's hard to get into that head zone. So
yeah,
the most important thing for me, I think, is just finding a few minutes to myself, and that is, a few minutes alone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Lately, I've been writing. Um, well, you know how writing goes. Sometimes you write something brilliant, and sometimes you write something simple. And if you cut off your simple stuff, um, then you know you're kind of screwing yourself because you're stopping the muse basically from coming. So I've been um, I've been writing these little, very small kind of ideas, simple, beautiful, kind of attached to my heart, and but they're very small. And then I went to see one of my friends play, and he had created like a suite, and that struck me that uh, I could probably create a suite from these little pieces. So then I came home and I started writing more of them, because I do tend to write those kind of things because I'm not a great piano player, but I'll sit down at the piano and I'll just fool around, come up with something, or I'll improvise just a cappella, and I might come up with like a lick, or something that's attractive to me. And I'm either in the mood to develop this whole piece or I'm not. So it's kind of like what you were saying about the third stream. It's like there's a lot of different things inside of me. So, you know, oh,
Yeah,
sounds like they're right outside your room.
yeah. If they're moving a little bit. Um, yeah, well, that's interesting. You collected a bunch of kind of scraps and you made like a musical scrapbook out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not done, but it's enough to make me curious, which of course is creativity. So it's pretty cool. Um, what do you find the most rewarding thing about playing?
Well, I guess just trying to listen to hear what might come next. And this is something that I talk about with my students a lot, is like, how do we leave space so that more ideas can come? We don't have to be the piano. We feel like we have to be playing all the time, but if you take your hands off the piano and don't play for a couple measures or three measures or four measures and see what happens, I think that's really rewarding, because then a new idea might come to you, and then another idea will come out of that, or maybe somebody else in your ensemble will have an idea, and that will inspire you, and you'll keep going, because we're supposed to be listening to each other, and a lot of times I think we forget. So that, I think that's the kind of part of the magic of it, is taking the time to listen to hear what's going to come next, rather than just like when I was in college. I remember I would be so anxious about when it was time for me to have to solo, and I would be like sitting there like, okay, when I have the first measure, I'm going to play this idea, because I was so anxious about it. I wanted to play something that worked. But now I might just wait and just be like, well, I don't know what I want to do yet.
So, and that's the rewarding part.
I think that's part of the magic, is being able to like be surprised by
Yeah,
what else is going to happen, rather
yeah,
than be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. The fun and rewarding part is not knowing what you're going to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Um, I'm with you. I love space for myself and for the players, man. If they are playing too much, especially piano,
Oh
it
yeah,
just
we're
pisses
notorious.
me off. Yeah. And that's why I like guitar, because guitar generally does, when they're accompanying, not soloing necessarily, but when they're just playing and accompanying, no matter what the style of player, there's usually these notes. They like to play the instrument and let it ring, or and then leave space. I don't know. Guitar is pretty cool that way. I mean, piano's a great instrument too, but there are, like we were saying, there's the players who just play a lot. It's just shut up.
I think it's because we can't sustain like some other instruments. So we feel it's like, maybe it's like anxiety, like we have to play something else because it's gonna stop, the note is gonna stop sounding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I have a player who I've played with a lot over the past and who, like when we worked together a long time ago, he really had a lot of space. And then in more recent times we played together and he's not using space anymore. And he's playing a lot for himself as far as showing, he's hired in a lot of prestigious kind of gigs. I'm just wondering if he's gotten wrapped up into that too much, like, a little bit of I have to show what I have kind of thing.
But if you don't leave space, then you can't listen.
Yeah, 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 it's really interesting. Really interesting. Um, do you have any favorite records? I mean, you've already mentioned, some Brazilian people. What about what about in jazz? Do you have like favorite records or desert island records or that kind of stuff?
Well, some of my favorite records, I mean, there's a really amazing Jimmy Jufrey album, 1961, which was fusion and thesis, two other albums put together. I actually was in his ensemble at NEC. That was
Ah,
um, my first jazz ensemble teacher. And he was a genius who's completely underrated. He started off with four brothers and then went to like kind of a Texas folk jazz thing and cool jazz and West Coast jazz straight into the avant-garde. And then after that, he kind of fell off the map because what he was doing was so experimental that he lost his audience entirely. So then he
wow.
ended up teaching at England Conservatory, and he was a really amazing person. But by the time I met him, he was suffering from Parkinson's, and
Oh,
but he's somebody that was really very inspirational with his writing, which is like very contrapuntal. So that's a pretty cool set of albums. And then some other albums that I kind of grew up on, I guess, would be like Keith Jarrett's Standards Volume 2. I loved that album a lot. McCoy Tyner's Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. Anything by Wayne Shorter, Juju, Speak No Evil. I love Wayne Shorter. I love Thelonious Monk. Probably Thelonious Monk and Wayne Shorter would be my favorite jazz composers. I don't know, there's so much great stuff out there. Like I don't even know where to
yeah,
start. And then you kind of like you'll go on a binge and you'll just be listening to one person just for months.
yeah, yeah. I used to, before technology, I used to have a CD player in my kitchen that had six spots, and I would listen, and and I wouldn't put shuffle on. I would listen to one CD, and I'd listen to all those CDs for 2 weeks. And that's what I had in the kitchen going on. And that was so great. Oh my God. I loved doing that. I kind of don't do that anymore, because there's so many other things that I feel like I have to do, and
Yeah.
but really listening. I mean, I have shitloads of CDs around here. And I keep looking at them thinking maybe I can get rid of some of these, but it's like, no, I have this huge Mingus collection over
Oh,
there,
wow.
you know. I really want to do nothing else and listen. I used to have a boyfriend who he was a bass player. We actually would lie on the floor in the dark and put on a record and not do anything else, just listen. It was great.
Yeah,
Wow, it was
that's
fantastic.
wonderful. Yeah, when I was in college, I think that was the last time, or maybe when I went to Banff Jazz Workshop, we would just all get together as students and just listen to all of Dave Douglas's recordings, or it was just, I don't do that anymore. We don't have listening parties. When is the last time we had a listening party? That would be just such a great thing. Everybody put their phone away
I'm going to
and,
write that down. I want to create a listening party.
oh, invite me.
Okay. I did have three friends who we started like a Zoom thing. We were gonna, get on and listen and share people, share artists, but kind of fell apart. But maybe a listening party. I always threaten. My husband has a huge record collection, so I always am pushing like, let's do like a monthly hang. People come over and you pick and choose whatever. I mean, he's not a big jazz guy, but so what? Just pick and choose. And, he knows, he's one of those guys with a retentive, memory. And so he knows well, he knows the group. He doesn't necessarily know the individuals in the group, but he knows the group. He knows when they recorded, what label, that kind of information. And it's just, I miss doing that. I really do miss doing that. And we could make time. We just have to carve it out.
Oh, that's a goal.
Okay, well, we'll keep in touch on that, okay?
That sounds great.
Oh, hi, Harvey Winepill.
Hi there, Harvey.
He said he had a lot of fun playing Kerry's music at a house concert in San Francisco.
Oh, Shay Haney. Yeah, Harvey, he was such an amazing musician, such an absolute pleasure to play with. And then I saw him again um, at, I forget where it was. It was Berkeley, someplace in Berkeley. He also played with me and Amy and Tomoko and Rebecca Kleinman at another house concert. So, yeah, that was amazing.
He's cool. I was booking a place down here last year, and so that's how we met. He came to play. It's a cool place. It's basically like a video studio. It's kind of funky, and you pay a very little bit of money to actually get a live edited video from 6 cameras, and a good sound and all of that. So he did that with the Brazilian group that he was on tour with, and yeah, and I interviewed him as well. Yeah, a few years ago. Really
Oh, yeah,
nice.
great musician.
Yeah, great musician. Yeah, Harvey. Um, did you always want to be a musician?
Probably. I mean, it's just something I gravitated towards from the very beginning. I was a super introverted kid, and music is one of the only venues that I felt comfortable in.
Yeah, yeah. But apparently you wanted to be a mom too.
That I discovered pretty late. Yeah, I had my second kid at 43, so I waited as long as possible.
Okay. Um, let's see. Have you, this is kind of a funny question, and it might not have one particular answer, but did you ever have like a major setback or a moment in time where you went, what am I doing? I don't,
Yeah, tendonitis. I mean, 5 years
oh,
of like severe pain. That was pretty brutal.
So were you playing through that?
I was trying to. Basically,
Yeah.
what happened was when I began studying like classical piano when I was 8, I had one of those teachers who's like play through the pain and very traditional,
Uh,
like put a ball underneath your hand kind of thing. And I ended up in very unnatural hand positions.
oh,
So I was in pain probably by the time I was 14 or maybe even 11. And then I went away to North Carolina School of the Arts, and I was basically put in all these situations where I was the only pianist who really was suffering and had a lot of difficulty. I did like the Tanglewood summer program, and I was like, I don't even know why I was there because I could barely play.
wow.
And then when I got to New England Conservatory, finally it got so bad that I'm like, I've got to just stop playing for months. And then I discovered both jazz and then something called the Feldenkrais technique, which was something that totally recalibrated my movement. And then Charlie gave me a series of exercises from a teacher that probably originated with this teacher, Abby Whiteside,
Huh.
through Sophia Rossoff. And it's just a very short series of exercises that I could give anyone who's listening, and I would be happy to, because it totally changed everything that I do to the point where I do not
Yeah. Oh,
suffer
really?
at all now. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually, this week, I'm going to be starting a body work with a bodywork person who knows Feldenkrais and um, what's the other one?
Alexander?
Yes, Alexander. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you ever get ideas of where music, how music is going to form, coming up in coming years? I mean, I don't know if any of us really saw what was going to happen, before, in music I'm talking about, but um, even to the effect of genres mixing, I mean, you saw genres mixing, but I don't know if you had this kind of vision of it moving into a direction. Do you have a forward idea?
I don't, but I think, because so many things have already been done, electronics and microtones, and
Yeah,
there's just so many things that have been done already. I do think that, I was kind of, people talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and that kind of makes you wonder about things too, but it also makes you feel like maybe the human element will be even more precious and desired, because, it's so easy for somebody to just like take a button and just generate something, but like what's really coming from humans is probably going to be more prized. I would
yeah,
hope so anyway.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I would feel a little guilty if I was using AI. Like, okay, AI, try and take this line and make some music, and then feeling like if I sang that, I would be like, something's wrong.
Yeah, I wish I could find it. Somebody had a YouTube channel with, like, they tried to make AI generated jazz, and it just looked and sounded so ridiculous.
Really?
It had really silly titles, and really silly descriptions, and then the music sounded super disjointed and bizarre. They tried to get somebody to have an AI generated bebop tune, and it was just the strangest and hilarious because it sounded like so wrong. And I wish I could. I keep trying to find this. If anybody knows what this YouTube channel is, I want to find it again because it made me laugh.
That's funny. It brought to mind the Larry Golding's
Oh yeah,
persona, Oh my God.
Hans Groiner. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just so funny, man. Love that. He's so funny anyway. He is such a, and he's a great player.
Great player. Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. Um, let's see. Today in today's market, I mean, again, I think I know where you're at in Brazilian music, you know, um, and so in today's market, who are some of the pianists that you like, either famous or not famous?
Okay, so I guess my favorite pianists who are around today, Aaron Parks is really
Oh
brilliant.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
love his playing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many amazing piano players. There's Leo Genovese who plays a lot of Brazilian musical. He's Argentinian.
Hmm.
Um, really brilliant. There's an Italian player named Pietro Lusu who isn't known so much here, but he's really brilliant, amazing pianist. My husband, I admire a lot, George Colligan. He's a great pianist, really, really
I have to
fantastic.
write his name down.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's been very inspirational through the years. Like I actually heard him play before I ever met him.
Ah,
Um, I heard an album of his before, and because we were both in a piano competition in separate years, and then the person whose house I was staying at, they're like, "Oh, you should hear who did the competition 2 years ago. This is really great." And he played me the demo tape, and I'm like, "Wow, this is actually really great." So, yeah, that's another favorite pianist. There's, it's hard to it's hard to choose. Shea Maestro, there's like just so many brilliant
you know
pianists.
who I actually heard the other day? I I I felt a little embarrassed because uh, I knew of the group he's in, but I actually didn't really realize the names of every member, which is a little weird. But I went to the Baked Potato Club down here with some Japanese friends, and she wanted to hear. She's a B3 player, and she thought that this guy was going to be playing possibly organ because it was organ, guitar. Well, it was keyboard and guitar and drums. And I knew the drummer, Jason Harnell, who's very creative. And but I just didn't expect what I heard when I went in. I was probably thinking it was going to be more of an organ gig or something, but it was not. And it was Adam Benjamin from Kneebody.
Oh, he's wonderful. I was just adjudicating at the Reno Jazz Festival last year, and he I think he's on the full-time faculty at the University of Nevada at Reno.
Yeah,
Wonderful pianist. Yeah.
yeah, I could not believe what he was doing. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, in my terms, it was like, it was not playing, the major chord.
I think he's kind of a legend.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I said, I thought, Kathy, this is a little, stupid that you don't know all the members of Kneebody. That's just like, that's weird. So I have
Hard to
to,
keep track of everybody. There's so
it
many.
is hard to keep track of everybody, but yeah, but that was really good. He was a very humble player, he was not showy. And there was a guitar player named Storm. I didn't know him either, and I usually know guitar players. And Jason he's super, super, super creative. So it was just the first moment I walked in, it was like beautiful music, it's like, wow, wow, it was great.
Oh wow. Wish I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Adam Benjamin, yeah, he's really an interesting player. If you had to, I don't know if this is a fair question, but if you had to say, if you had to, let's make it really simple. If you had to come up with a very simple gift that you can give through your music, what would you say it was?
Well, and this is again something I've been thinking about. What I feel that music is something that can uplift people, right? So it should be like it should make somebody's day better. So here's just maybe this is kind of a roundabout answer, but so we have, like I said, this monthly Brazilian composer gig at this club here. And at one of the last, I think it was the last show, there was a Brazilian couple that came up to me and they said, "Thank you for playing our music." And that just was so meaningful. It's like all the work that we put into everything, we really made some people happy. They left that place feeling uplifted, like their day was improved from spending their evening with us. So that was like a real connection. I guess that's what I'm trying to aim for. I'm aiming for a connection with the listener.
Nice. Um, excuse me. I have a little chronic cough. I keep working on it.
Yeah, we all went through something here.
My cough is older. It's 25 years. But anyway, recently I found something that worked, actually a good amount. I was in a cough study and retrained my body, but it takes a lot of mental work. You have to, when you're wanting to cough, you have to stop and think about taking a breath and swallowing and breathing out.
Really?
But when I was doing that, it was good. But I think my body slash mind got kind of used to it. When you give yourself something new to do that works, then your body goes, wait a minute, no, I know how to get rid of that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of come back into the cough. But if I do stop and think about it, it does work actually. It stops the whole forward body motion of going into the whole cough thing. So
Wow.
it's interesting. Anyway, yes, Joyce, I see that. She's saying she's just not into AI and chat GBT. It parrots what you think. It thinks you want to hear from information that you already know in a generic way. I don't know why people are intrigued by it. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Let's see. So do you have a bucket list?
A bucket list of musical experiences or things I'd like to do?
Anything?
I guess I would like to, I have two kids that are 10 and 15, and I've spent the last 15 years mostly being consumed with them. And I guess my bucket list would be to do a lot more traveling and a lot more playing around the world. In the past year, I at least started traveling somewhat. Like I did some shows in Vancouver and New
Mm-hmm.
York and San Francisco, Los Angeles. So I don't know, I'm a Sagittarius and I love traveling and I love having new experiences and visiting different countries and experiencing different cultures. And I'd like to do a lot more of that.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of a mix of life and music, isn't it?
Yeah, and food.
And food. Yeah, my husband, he's not really a traveler, and so, you know, he doesn't stand in my way, but from time to time over the years, he'll say, "Why do you want to? Why do you want to go?" And I said, "Okay, let me think. I can go to a whole different country, see all these different things, meet different people, play music with them. Gee, I don't know."
Sounds like
It's like,
paradise.
yeah. I mean, I'm not fond these days of the travel part of it, but you know, when I get there, it's great. I mean, it's so cool.
Yeah, I love traveling.
Yeah. Any particular country you'd love to go to?
I am trying to see, so I have a friend up here from Sao Paulo who she plays flute sometimes on my gigs and she wants to try to bring me down there this August. I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year, but I'd really like to make that happen. So,
That would make sense.
yeah,
Yeah, that would really make sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
hoping.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I spent like a 3 month thing in Tokyo, but I was playing in a hotel and I
Yeah.
didn't really get out to see a lot of the jazz scene there, but I actually there's a Japanese singer named Chieko Honda who sings a lot of Brazilian music and she
Oh,
moved back there. It might be fun to go visit and play with her. I don't know. I want to get out and do more stuff now that my kids are a little bit more independent.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Brazil, Brazil and Japan really have a connection. They have like the biggest Japanese community in the world, like outside of Japan, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, except the rice is different there.
In Japan?
Yeah, everything was like I just remember there was glutinous rice. Like I went to like an Indian restaurant and they had glutinous rice instead of basmati rice. So it was different.
Now that I don't know, but I always make a joke like, oh, and would you like some rice with that? Because everything, I mean, they have so many articles of food that are rice based, and it just makes me laugh. It's just like, everything is made out of rice.
Yeah, I love rice.
Carrie looks so young. If she had a child at 43 that is now 10, is she actually 53?
Uh-huh.
There you go, Joyce. All right. Let's see. I do have a list sometimes that because if the conversation is, kind of, I said everything and my my curiosity is like satisfied. I have this list just in case. But I also can listen to music. So we have a lot of stuff. I mean, there's Ben Graves and you. By the way, that band was excellent. I wanted to mention that. That was a great band at the Montevilla.
Oh, thanks. That was my husband on drums, and we had
Oh,
some great musicians in town. That was Tim Wilcox on saxophone, who used to be on the East Coast, but he's a native Portlander. So, and then Garrett Baxter is from Oregon. He's a really fine young bass player that's on a lot of concerts here.
cool. It's funny because I looked at your husband and I thought he looks kind of familiar, I don't
Yeah,
know,
he's
maybe.
done a lot of things. He was in Jack DeJohnette's band, Buster Williams' band, Cassandra Wilson's band. He's done a lot of stuff all over the world.
So he played piano in Jack DeJohnette's band,
Yeah,
but he's played drums in bands as well. He's a great
mostly a
drummer.
pianist, but he's a great drummer. Yeah, I hire him for like
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, he's great. Okay, so we have your live stream, we have Estamos Ahí, we have another Montevilla one, we have you and Ben Graves.
Yeah, that's a duo concert that we did here in Portland downtown.
Should we listen to that?
Yeah, I think that might be fun. It's a little bit different setting since it's duo instead of
Yeah. Whoops, sorry.
more like the pipe
Sorry. Sorry, what did you say?
organ. I think those are the church bells.
Oh. Wow.
I'm not a person or a robot. I'm software, here to help.
Wow. My Siri went off.
That happens to me too.
All right, here we are.
Good afternoon, everybody. I can really hear this. Thank you for being here with me and guitarist Ben Graves. And we are going to play a program that hopefully will be interesting to you of various living composers, many of whom are Brazilian. But we're going to start with a composition of mine that was inspired by a Brazilian composer, Durval Ferreira. So this is Chorinho number 2, because he wrote number 1.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, talk about third stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, room is a little bit challenging because there's a ton of reverb in there.
Yeah.
So somebody could be right here and you feel like they're all the way over there.
Yeah. Well, that was really beautiful, though. You sounded like choro and
Yeah,
classical and jazz. Yeah, really beautiful.
thank you.
Oh yeah, my friend Joyce Glasgow's on. She's the one who asked you how old you were. She's a big jazz fan, and your husband plays in Seattle sometimes, she said.
Uh-huh.
And uh, oh, she wants to know if you ever play piano gigs, duo gigs with your husband.
Uh-uh. No, it's too intimidating. In fact, when I met him, I didn't even want to play piano while he played drums. I didn't want to play in front of him at all.
I guess you got over that.
Yeah, now he plays drums with me, but yeah, he's amazing. I've always kind of been in awe of him with how prolific he is and also how easy a lot of things come to him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go listen to him more.
Yeah, he's really brilliant. Like I'm super jealous of some of the things he can do.
That's cool. I remember it's interesting when when you have two people in the family making money from music, right? And my friends, I just always thought this was so funny. They bought a house, and I could just imagine the loan officer. She was actually her profession, besides being a singer, she was a professional clown, and he was a jazz bass player. And I always thought about that. It was like the loan officer's going, "Okay, you got it." It's like, wow, really? How did they get the loan, man? I don't know.
It's probably the beginning of a stand-up joke.
I know. I know, it really is. It's very funny.
A clown and a bass player walk into a house.
Right. Um, uh, a question that my friend Taylor usually asks is, which is a good question. He he's a guitar player, so he asks, what standard or standards do you find yourself going back to for more information or more connection or
Standards that I like a lot. I don't know. I like to, well, a lot of the Brazilian standards I did
yeah.
a lot, and I ended up calling those. Like we had a Jobim tribute in January, since that was the month he was born, and we played a ton of like really well-known Jobim tunes. as well as some
Yeah.
more obscure ones. But of course, we
Yeah.
had to play Girl from Ipanema.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Uh, and but as far as jazz standards, like if I'm playing a gig somewhere, uh, I get a kick out of you. That's a good one. There's so many good ones, right? You stepped out of a dream.
Yeah.
Um, it could happen to you. I mean, they all go someplace different harmonically, so it's always a fun little journey depending on which one you choose.
Yeah. I like Out of a Dream. I think that was the one that I heard Chick play, and I wish I could really remember in detail what he did, but it was at the Bowl, and he had a small group, and he started with something totally different. He didn't announce what the song was. It was rhythmically and harmonically sounded like really different. And then all of a sudden, it was You Stepped Out of a Dream, and it just totally knocked me down, man. It was so amazing.
He had an amazing album called Expressions, where he just played solo piano and he did a lot of really interesting things like that. I think
Oh,
there's a really amazing version of I Didn't Know What Time It Was on there.
yeah. I'm writing
But
that
yeah,
down.
he did. I think maybe It Could Happen to You. He started off with this weird polytonal thing where there's like a pedal point, but he's doing something with the black keys in the right hand and some kind of a C pedal point in the left hand. And I transcribed a bunch of like maybe 4 songs off of that album because he was doing such interesting things.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, talk about a never-ending quest for curiosity,
Oh yeah.
you know? Yeah, he was so cool. Totally cool guy. Um, yeah. Um, I actually recorded, I can't remember what number album it was, but it was amongst the first albums that I recorded at his studio in LA
Oh
with
wow.
his engineer, Bernie Kirsch. And yeah, he had a Steinway and he had what's another super famous piano?
Rosendorfer.
Well, yeah, he had both of those in the room. So my piano player was like, hmm. I think he picked the Steinway, but yeah, that was a really cool record because we were able to get Peter Erskine and Mark Johnson.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
How did you do that?
it was really totally fun. And Bernie is so nice, just so nice, and got great ears. And he was all about analog, you know. So
Mhm.
of course it was a long time ago, so it was closer to the analog time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a good experience in that studio. Really felt good. Um, h- are you just do you have an endless repertoire of original compositions?
I'm always trying to write more. Like I said, it's hard to
Yeah.
find the time, but in May, we're going to go to New York and go record another album. So with a bunch of new compositions, including one that I wrote for a recently departed friend. It's kind of funny when you were talking about gathering little bits of material together to make a suite. It's kind of like how a song that I wrote in tribute to her came out. It was almost like a tube of toothpaste. Like I had an idea and I squeezed it out, and then I recorded it, and then I squeezed a little bit more out, and the next part of it came out, and then I squeezed the third part of it, and like the whole piece kind of wrote itself like that. So
Oh,
we're gonna
cool.
record that and like 9 other compositions, I think,
Why in New York?
because we there's a the other besides George, we're gonna have like 3 other musicians who are New York based or who come to New York a lot who are gonna be on the album.
Yeah. You've played with them before?
One of them there's a great bass player named Alex Claffey who plays in a lot of different configurations, and we played at Mesro last summer. He played a bunch of my music, so he's gonna be on it, and then we're gonna have some special guests.
Cool. In May.
In May, we're gonna record, yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to do a gig for like a rehearsal or warm up
I
or
don't think it's so with kids and everything, like I don't have any time to rehearse. I don't have any time
yeah.
to practice. It's just kind of like we're dashing here and there.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to find childcare for them, because we're gonna go away for a couple nights. So
Yeah, yeah.
That's like the biggest stressor, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I just realized you remind me, I don't know why I thought of it at this moment, but you actually remind me of one of my first cousins, and she lives in Portland.
Oh,
Yeah. And yeah, and she has kids. One just had a bar mitzvah, I guess, a year ago or so. And yeah, that's funny. It's I don't know if she's into jazz, her family, but she's lived there a long time. And we did
oh.
maybe we went to her wedding or something, a long time ago. But yeah, it's been a long time since I went to Portland. Do you ever come across Nancy King?
Nancy King is a wonderful singer. I don't know how active she is anymore, but we used to have
Yeah, I
a
don't.
driveway series in front of my house called Driveway Jazz, and she attended one of them. She didn't perform, but she came to one of them.
She's a sweetie pie.
She was like a Mark Murphy. She was like one of the
Yeah.
most talented
Yeah.
singers. Like creative singers I think I've heard.
Yeah, incredibly creative. Didn't read music,
Yeah.
and that's why she picked keys. The one reason she just picked the keys that people were playing in, and she ended up with a really wide range because of that. And but yeah, she and Steve Christofferson
Oh
did a
yeah.
few workshops at my house, and
Oh great. He's a great
um,
pianist.
yeah, yeah, and but she's like such a great singer, and
Oh yeah, she
yeah,
was really remarkable.
yeah, yeah, really remarkable. I have to come up to Portland
Yeah,
sometime.
come
Just
up.
yeah. Is that where John Stowell lives?
Yes. John
Okay.
Stoll is amazing, and he will just come and he plays with Ben Graves a lot. They just did
Ah,
a show together, I think, or yeah, he plays with. They have a like a guitar duo, or sometimes he'll just come and show up at a gig and be like guitar number three, and it'll just be amazing. And he just knows exactly how to not step on the crack, or he is just totally tasteful, and he knows exactly where to play, you know.
yeah, he's an amazing person. Yeah,
Yeah, I was playing
amazing.
a gig with Ben and he just showed up and was like chordal instrument number three, but it sounded great.
That's great. Yeah, and his whole philosophy about touring and stuff. He's, getting in his car.
So
That's his
hardworking.
philosophy on tour. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I remember I was around him when he got his new car. And it was so cute because it was finally the old car was just like, I can't do it I can't do one more trip. It was great.
Yeah, great guitar player.
Yeah, yeah, really cool. Um, and no, that's Seattle. I don't know. I just haven't been up there for so long. Things are popping into my head, but I don't think they're applicable. I think they might be some Seattle things too.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if you make it up here, give me a
yeah,
holler.
yeah, I will. Yeah, I know. And Amy keeps telling me I should come back to San Francisco. I haven't been there for a long time. And Lorca played on one of my last records.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it was
he's great.
so good.
I'm going to play with Amy in April at Mr. Tipples on April 18th.
Cool. How do you guys know each other?
I think we know each other through a saxophone player in New York who used to be based in the Bay Area named Laura Dreyer. So she introduced me to Amy, and we played at the Sound Room. And then I just, Amy's also a mom as well as, a
Right.
very active musician, so we have a lot to talk about.
And she loves Brazilian
Yep.
music. Okay. Add that all into the mix, right? Um, what do you think about what do you think about well, you mentioned business a little. And of course you're super busy. But you also have no lack of gigs coming up. So you must do some business. Do you focus on business for a good portion? Do you use social media?
I definitely use social media. And one of the other things that I do sometimes that can bring in some money is through the website Sound Better. So I'll do remote tracks for people. I just finished a remote track for a vocalist.
Oh,
So this is kind of funny. We were talking about AI and somebody
yeah.
sent me a track. of a vocalist with a keyboard. And I wrote back, I'm like, well, what exactly do you need here? And they said, well, this track was AI generated, and we want a human to play instead. So I took the chords and the stuff from the AI chart, and then I just played as a human, and I sent them the backing track, and they decided to use that. So, there you have it, human versus AI.
So sounds better. That I think I've heard of that, but that's a website.
It's a portal where you can hire people to do music, production or recording, anything you want remotely. It really took off during the pandemic because nobody wanted to
Yeah.
be in the same room as another person. So I got, like, me and my husband, I think we recorded backing tracks for a whole album for a vocalist in like the Netherlands.
Wow.
It can be really fun. I recorded a track for somebody in Colombia,
Oh,
and the UK. Like, it's really fun. So sometimes I'll do that for some money.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. So getting back to my kind of main question. So do you pay a lot of attention to business? Do you not?
I should pay more attention. I think I'm so consumed with parenthood a lot of the time that I'm not as aggressive as I should be, or um, I should be trying to work harder on certain things, probably. But, my Monday nights are taken up by basketball. My Friday nights are taken up by basketball. Like, I'm kind of just trying to keep my head above water a lot of the time.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. So, okay, not to be your psychiatrist or anything, but I
Sure,
have to
add away.
ask, I have to ask this question. You said I should be more attentive. So I'm just curious why you think that. What more do you think would happen or should happen or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
I think maybe I just get a little bit like tired and lazy. So, and also we were talking before about like computers and smartphones and social media. I think it's easy to waste time on stuff. Like, ideally, I would like to be, using the little time that I do have, like, productively, whether it's, writing music, learning a new instrument,
Yeah,
um, doing things that are constructive. And sometimes I think I I get sucked into like websites and
yeah,
Instagram and stuff, and it's
yeah,
kind of a time suck. And I think that I'm lucky that I didn't grow up with Facebook and Instagram and social media. I grew up practicing. I grew up
yeah,
listening to music and transcribing and playing along with the transcriptions.
yeah,
I don't know if I would do that these days. Maybe I'd be more consumed with like trying to play something well and post a story, like I feel like I used to spend a lot more time just trying to get better and improve
yeah,
rather than focusing on distractions.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's maybe I feel a little bit guilty about being too distracted when I actually do have free time. So I'm trying to counteract that. So I started picking up the flute, which I think is a really centering and grounding instrument because it requires you to breathe and like make a beautiful sound out of it. And it's kind of, really puts you in the moment. So I
Yeah,
think that's a really constructive activity, and that's something I want to keep on with and um, improve at and make more of a part of my musical life.
yeah, yeah. I played flute at Berkeley. So,
Oh,
and here is my flute
oh,
sitting out for me to pick up. And during the pandemic, I took a few lessons, and yeah, a really good flute player, Laurie Bell from San Diego, and she showed me some stuff. I still have my embouchure, but
oh, cool.
and remember a lot of the fingerings,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just not. As a matter of fact, John Leftwich, we did a gig, and it was a union gig, and he said, "Play your flute, and so you can get a double." And I was like, "Play my flute?" I can read, so I read. I can't solo because I don't play it enough.
Mm.
But it is a really nice instrument, and I mean, it's very there's a lot of the technique of flute that's comparable to singing. So it's kind of a good overall lesson, you know. But yeah, I mean, a good flute player, that's really nice. It's nice to make beautiful music. Actually, for a while, I really wanted to get an alto
That's
flute,
what I
but
want is an alto flute because it's in all the Brazilian stuff. Like I was just listening
oh,
to some, I think it was Olha Maria, and
yeah,
then I just became aware of the fact that oh, it's going below B, so they have an alto flute. You know, like oh, I want one of those, but they're like
such
2,000
a
dollars or something.
beautiful tonality,
Yeah.
right? It's gorgeous. I kept thinking, do I really want to buy an alto flute? You know, I don't even play my regular flute,
That's what well, I'm
you
just
know.
learning how to play the regular one, so I can't
Yeah,
justify buying an
yeah,
alto when I can't even play play the flute yet. But I eventually would love to have an alto because I just
yeah.
love the way it sounds.
Me too. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I just flashed on Benny Maupin, not that he's a flute player, but you know, when you hear the bass clarinet, uh, you don't hear it all that much. You know, I've heard like, you know, people, you know, four or five people maybe over the years that I've really noticed who play great bass clarinet.
Yeah.
Um, he's definitely one, and he loves it. You know, before the pandemic, he was playing a few times a year in LA. And so it would just be awesome to go hear him play. And a few interesting things that I learned from him. One was he was playing the same songs from gig to gig, which I thought, because I try and not do that myself, but he was doing it because I never really asked him about this, but I think because a lot of people did that in that bebop era, you know, and I think it was because they really wanted to explore the songs and also because they were playing with different people. And so it was a different experience and a different night. And, you know, maybe that was part of their joy to find out what was special about that night or in that group, you know.
Mm.
That was one thing I learned about him. And then I've always been attracted to, you know, tension notes. He is one of the best instrumentalists I've heard utilizing tension notes. It's like I would just sit there waiting to hear those notes because he played them in perfect tune and with such love for where they were sitting, you know, in relation to everything. It was gorgeous experience. I just love that. Really beautiful.
I have to go check him out some more.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end, and is there anything that you want to mention? Do you have a gig coming up, or can people, you know, um, tap into a streaming gig
Um,
or whatever?
well, there's our April 5th, where I'm at the Seattle Jazz Fellowship. April 18th, I'm at Mr. Tipples in San Francisco. And then every month, it's usually the third Thursday of the month, we have our monthly tribute to a Brazilian composer
Yeah,
here at the
yeah.
1905. So we're doing Chico Buarque on Thursday. And then next month, we're going to do Choice. And then the following month, I think it's Javan and, oh no, Ivan Lins. And then Javan the following month. And depending on how many people show up, they did live stream the last show. You can actually watch that if you go to the
Oh,
1905 live stream. We did a tribute to Jobim, and
oh, cool.
that was live streamed. But I haven't put that on my page yet. But that was a lot of fun. I don't know if they're going to do that every month because it's an added expense to
Uh,
hire somebody to do that. But sometimes it's live streamed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's what's going on that I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I might just play us out. You can hang out or not, but I might bring up one of your gigs to, you know, play a song. Um, and I just wanted to tell people listening, you know, I'm back to Mondays and Fridays on the Noontime Hang. Carrie was number 608
Oh wow.
Friday, I have a Filipina jazz singer, Charmaine Clamor, who lives in LA. She's going to be here. And for those of you in LA who are amused at coming out to hear me or whatever, on the weekend, Saturday, we're doing our second Jinkies jazz gig in Santa Monica on 2nd and Broadway. You can find it on my website. It's early. It's probably, I'm guessing this week it'll be 10 to 1. Last week it was 9 to 12. Kerry, I couldn't handle it. I was so tired the rest of the day. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so I hope it's 10 to 1. And then Sunday we have an all-day scat workshop. If you know anybody who wants to come, Kerry, send them my way. And a great pianist who's a friend of mine who's been living in Berlin for a while, Louis Dura, he's in town, and he and I are going to give this 6-hour workshop on scat.
Wow.
Yeah, our idea is you take these pieces of information and work them for 15 minutes, then you go on to the next, and then, after a few, go back to this one, so that by the end of the day, you really have worked on these particular things. It's so hard for singers nowadays because they don't get to gig like we did. They just, they want to sing, they create a show, they sing, and it's good, but they don't get that whole, daily experience or weekly experience of the whole thing. So anyway, that's what we're doing.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and oh yeah, Roland, I'll believe that you make it to Jinkies when I see you there. Estamos, should I play that?
Estamos ahí. That's a fun one. Yeah, I think we did it at the Jazz Forum over in Tarrytown, New York.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to play this and then I will close out. So Kerry, thank you so much for being here. It was really
you.
fun.
It was so fun.
Really
to
enjoyed
come.
it.
And give me a call if you come up here.
Absolutely will. You'll be on the top of my list. Okay, bye you guys.
was fun. I love Mauricio Zaccarelli's playing. He's just such a great drummer.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, Kerry, thank you so much. It was really
Thank you.
you. Thank you, and thank you. Have a great day.